Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast, produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. I am Frank. That is Bill. That is Cindy. What's up, guys? This is the second to last episode of the season.
Very bittersweet.
It is. It's kind of another one of those years that went by stupid fast.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, I say years, half a year that went by stupid fast, because technically speaking, it's only been half a year.
Well, school year, it's been a year.
Yeah, I guess it has been a whole season, hasn't it?
Or if you can, seeing how you do some of your work for the state, the fiscal year, which started at the beginning of October.
I don't go by that.
That's the federal year. Right?
Was that the
The
federal?
state year.
The state's July. Yeah, July
Why
1st.
is that?
For budgeting purposes.
Just to be confusing.
Yeah. Why?
To confuse everyone that deals with grants.
So you're telling me the state has something that starts in July, and the federal government has something that starts in October, and then all of us normal people use January the 1st?
Yep, that's the way.
Or April the 15th, whoever you're looking at, if you have to have your personal taxes done.
That's when taxes are due. But yeah, the calendar year starts in January. The federal fiscal year is October 1st. The Florida fiscal year is July 1st.
And what does that mean for us normal people?
But it makes sense for the state because one of the largest outlays for the state is schools. And schools run July to.
It means nothing for normal people. It means
yes.
For those of us in nonprofits that deal with grants anymore, we have so many different grants that now between the October deadlines, the July deadlines, and then January for local grants, we are just being audited all year long now.
Yeah, we haven't had that blessing of
constantly
jumping into that. So I can't. I don't understand it yet because we haven't dealt with it yet.
You will, Frank.
It'll get there.
Yeah. Yikes. Good times. Are you guys ready to chat with our guest?
Of course.
Yeah, I think so.
So today on the podcast, we are blessed to be joined by Matthew Griffo. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you can, tell everybody a little bit about you, where you're from, and about your very diverse background. It's funny, up here when I did your graphic, up here on the graphic, it says creator, musician, photographer, and I put all the things because it seems to be pretty accurate, all the things.
Yeah, so for me, I'm originally from Rochester, New York, by Canada, close to Toronto, Buffalo area. And then in 2005, I moved to Chicago. But what I do, I started, there's this theater out there called Second City with Tina Fey and Bill Murray and Chris Farley and all these different.
And George Wendt was there.
Yeah, Jordan Wendt. Yeah, I've seen him. I saw him walking down the halls one day. But yeah, so many people. So I used to train there, and then I music directed there, and I taught there at the training center, teaching musical improvisation, and then I toured around the country with them, and then eventually I did it for long enough that I was like, I'll just start teaching musical improvisation around the world. So then I started just getting booked out by theaters and universities around the world, mostly in the Nordic countries because they have more money up there. So it was, and they also speak English pretty fluently, so that was good. And then now that was, that's, again, we're looking at 2005 to 2000, before the pandemic. And then since then I've been I was previously making a podcast which Frank was on. I want to get back to that podcast, but I do photography, and then I still do music all the time. I play gigs around Chicago all the time, but I deviated to mental health, and I make a series now where I interview people with severe mental illness symptoms, and that could be schizophrenia. It could be different states of psychosis. It could be maybe a lighter thing like seasonal affective disorder. It could be multiple sclerosis. And so taking these different people with these different symptoms and then expanding using clinical data that's relevant to their specific biometrics, how to utilize either movement. Usually it's a combination of movement, nutrient intake, and mindfulness potentially, and other modalities to balance their systems. And then through that series, usually it's over the course of months, and for some of them it's been years. The viewer gets to watch them reduce in their symptoms and how they did that, and the ups and downs of that process. What really sucked about it, what was easy, where they failed and then succeeded and then failed again and then succeeded some more. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That is one of the most beautiful things I think I have ever heard. We, so much in our society, we are afraid to highlight mental illness or to talk about it, and many people suffer still in silence. And what a valuable thing for people to be able to watch that growth and that healing and see that, listen, this isn't something we have to be afraid to talk about. This isn't something shameful. People can heal. People can grow. That is, oh my God, that is beautiful.
And in the thank you. And in the combination of it, because I'm, not only am I a musician, but I do have my mother's a ICU nurse, and she tried to have me be a doctor as a kid, but I never wanted to be one. But I was like, nah, this is not fun. But I because of the creative element of it, I realized that we see there's a bunch of things that say have some magnesium or have some vitamin D, or we get it. We're like, sure, okay, we should sleep and not eat ultra processed food. We got it. But it's different to see a person really change those few things consistently over time, and then make profound mental state modifications for the better. And that's, I think, what's really missing. But I realized that we can't just tell people. Not only we have to show people, but it had to be presented in a way that was using art. So each individual gets their own series with their own music that is specific to. It's a music that tries to emulate their emotional experience of those specific symptoms that they either had or maybe still have. So.
Wow, I had no idea you were doing all that, Matt. This is amazing.
Yeah, it really derailed the fun podcast I had.
No,
this is amazing.
This is awesome, dude. This took a whole new level that I don't think any of us expected, and it's a greite thing.
It's a long-running joke that we have where the mood could be so light, and we'll be talking to sports people, and then I'm over here. Okay, but let's talk about your childhood trauma. So
that's really funny.
It's true. It's true.
What is the name of this podcast for those that want to find it?
It's not a podcast, but it's called. My name's Matt Griffo, and so it's Matt Griffo, GRIF as in Frank, F as in Frank, O, on health. If you just look up Matt Griffo on health, you'll find a bunch of different videos, and there's a bunch of resources as well. So there's the YouTube, but then there's a bunch of there's a Patreon page, and that page I made it so it was free for anybody to sign up, but all the resources are there. So let's say somebody was a free subscriber. Well, they can see here's a protocol for I have GERD. Maybe a person has gastroesophageal reflux disease, so GERD. Let's say they had that. Well, there's different recipes to decrease that, and all of those recipes also cite clinical data that utilizes natural holistic and usually extracts in combination with maybe polyphenols like flavonoids, and then you could just use all the recipes are quite cheap, and that's probably why you don't really see about it. You don't see a lot of that clinical data because where's the marketing budget? It ain't nowhere.
Yep.
Not like the synthetics. The synthetic companies have a lot of budget. So
now you've had obviously adding this to your puzzle, you've had a very diverse path through your life. What specifically drew you to doing this? Maybe I don't know about anybody else really going about that anywhere near the way you're going about it.
It's true. So I was born in 1985, and my bedtime stories were medical books, but my great grandmother had eventually had Alzheimer's, and I remember thinking, was she's based on what I know from what my mother's told me, and this is 1995, so I'm 10. Based on what I know, she's not going to get out of this. But potentially my grandmother, who's now in line to get this eventually, maybe I could figure it out. And so I started going to the library in 1996 when I was 11, and I just started studying mental illness. And I remember old ladies would come up to me when I'm reading at the library, and they'd say, "What are you reading?" And then I would say, "I'm reading about dementia." And they would say nothing. They'd go, "Oh," and they just walk away.
Man.
So I've been studying it for so long, but I also knew that because of my lineage, I was also in line for it. And interestingly, I started getting hallucination symptoms when I was around 13 years old. So I started seeing shadow figures that would start coming around. Now, I never told anybody about this because I was around doctors that whole time, and I understood that if I told people about that, I was going to be locked up.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not going to work for me. So it was just normal for me to be at school and then see like a shadow demon. At the time, I understand that these are hallucinations now, right? I'm 40 years old now. And all these symptoms are completely gone for me, simply because I worked on how to reduce them. And so, but you have a kid who's 13 to 15 to 16 who's having to consistently ignore hallucination symptoms that are going on during not only the nighttime, but also daytime. And people would say, "What are you looking at?" And I would say, "Nothing." Because as soon as you say what it is, I would joke a lot. So people thought that I was joking. But to swing back around, I had those symptoms. Those symptoms I kept working to figure out how to reduce them or remove them. They did eventually get removed in 2010. I will say that it was like not on purpose. I was trying all these different things, but I'd kind of given up that they would go away. And then I had changed to like green juice drinks along with a few supplements, and that eventually I just realized that they weren't around. It wasn't like a light switch change. It just was slowly like me realizing, oh wait, where did they go? And so one part of why I'm making it is because I'm very used to it. I'm very used to talking about it. And well, I guess then I wasn't. Now I am, because they're all gone. But that, and then eventually I got what are called complex post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. And those can be like, think about, usually it's from like some childhood something for somebody. It doesn't have to be. It could be from a lot of things, but it could be chronic. But essentially, you're looking at a person's system who's elevated in inflammation, and they're usually ruminating, or there's negative thought feedback loops, right? And so you're getting a system that's, and I'll quit talking because I'm talking too much. But
you are not
essentially,
talking
you're getting
too
a
much.
system.
Yeah, the whole idea
That's
is
why
for
we
you to
have
talk,
you
buddy.
here.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
Oh, okay. You're getting a system that, well, it just can't get out of those responses. But what's wild is that you take two twins who have gone through the same war. Their parents are all, their parents have been murdered and everything, but one twin doesn't develop CPTSD and the other one does. And what they found with those twins is that one of them has a different protein that gets utilized in the brain. And so unfortunately, there is a genetic element to that. So I understand, and for others who have these different symptoms, it's unfortunately, I guess maybe fortunately, it's just not their fault. And so then you get a person who's leading down a road that they're always ready to be elevated. A cup breaks. You could think about it. You could think about a person who's like, oh, I'm a relaxed person. Their favorite cup breaks and they don't care. They're like, well, that's life. And you think about the most stressed person their favorite cup breaks and they're having a mental breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's looking at how to, not looking at the stories, because there's talk therapy is great and that's that, but we're looking at how to look at our biomechanical data our heart rate variability, our resting heart rate, the amount of oxygen we can utilize per minute using VO2 max. And these are all metrics that can be taken with most standard fitness trackers nowadays, along with blood labs. But blood labs don't always show. So it's, you kind of got to look at a bunch of different factors here. But overall, anybody would just decrease their inflammation, generally just ultra processed, stop that, and decrease sugar and increase fiber, and the things we already know. But what got me to go back to answer the question of why was I interested in talking about it is because I've been experimenting on myself since 1990. I would say 6, 7, 8. Somewhere around 1999 or 2000, I've been experimenting on myself with different methods to decrease these symptoms. So not only do I have a good understanding of the biomechanics, but I also have an understanding of what it feels like to be in those mental states and get myself out of it. So that's why I'm creating that.
Now, I have an interesting question based on that. Does that kind of lead into one of the many things that drew you to music? Were you drew to music during that time? And did you start noticing a benefit to playing music and being in the comedic world to the things you were dealing with?
My dad's a musician, and so I always, my whole life, I was just around music.
Okay.
So I would think it was, I would think that it was just that I just had been raised around music and just really liked music. And it was just anybody who does any type of art, it doesn't matter if they do it just for themselves as a hobby or as a professional, but it's a cathartic experience. And it's nice to use art to emote and slow down too. I mean, we're always looking at social media, and it's nice to just take a break and go, what am I experiencing? I'll put it into some craft or whatever it might be.
I know the first time me and you spent time together, I think we've met a couple of different times, but I got to go to your house and watch you guys actually do one of your programs. I don't even want to call it a podcast because it was so much more than that. It was like being on a podcast, being interviewed, and watching a full show while you're doing it is like the craziest thing I've probably ever experienced from an interview.
I'm so glad.
It was so unique. So if you can, walk us through that a little bit, because I don't even know. I try to explain it to people, and I can't even find the words to really break it down.
Sure. So the podcast is called Then This Happened. And I actually have a few more episodes that I had recorded back then I still need to edit. But I was like, I had deviated into this mental health series that I was like, I'll get to that. This feels more important to do the mental health thing.
It does, yeah.
But what the Then This Happened musical stories podcast is that we get a band, and that band changes depending on what the story might be. And so like if it was a bossa nova band, we're going to get the instruments for a bossa nova music. If it's rock or metal, we're going to get those different types of performers. So the musicians will actually shift. And this goes back to my background in musical improvisation. And so what will happen is the person will tell a true story. Usually it's a true well-known story. Now for you, Frank, the story was well-known because you're Chicago famous, right? Like everybody just knows that story now. But most of the time it's a story about Paul McCartney, or it's a story that's like, a big something else. And so we get the person tells the story, and then the band comes in and out of that story with music inspired by the story, moving the story along. So that's the whole thing.
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's just like the other stuff you're talking about here. It's a different take and a different way of looking at it. We look at that through science. You know a little bit about what we do through science, and it's very interesting to see that you're using science through what you do also. And I don't think that happens often enough, honestly.
When you say use science, go expand on that part.
Well, you're taking your you're taking real medical background and your deep dives into medical terminology and how the brain works and different proteins that are going back and forth and things that are working, and you're putting that knowledge that you have, that knowledge base, into real life stuff. And I don't think that's something that is done often enough.
It's refreshing to hear and see people that are, when talking about mental health and improving mental health, looking at people as a whole.
Yes.
And not just focusing on this one little piece, but bringing all of these different modalities in. Bringing in music, bringing in art, bringing in storytelling and that sense of community building, and that it's beautiful.
It's what I talk about often. It's people that are, instead of looking directly under the light for an answer for something, they're looking into the dark little crevices that kind of on the outside to find what, like, ways to fix things and ways to fix ailments and different perspectives on things. And it's just not something you hear very much of. People
are so multifaceted that we can't heal, and we can't say we want to help build resiliency and help people get back to their full potential when we're not looking at them as a whole, when we're just focusing on a tiny little sliver.
Yeah, exactly. And listening to them. I'll say a lot of people who come in and we do an interview, I consistently hear everybody else thought you're the first person who really believed me. And I was like, why would they not believe you? And they were like, I don't know, but even the doctors told me they didn't believe me. And I'm thinking to myself, why?
Right.
Like, it's so strange.
That's one of the hardest things I find when I am training and teaching new advocates in the field is getting them to understand that when you sit down with a client who has walked in for the first time, you're sitting down with a survivor. In that first appointment, if you are speaking more than 20% of the time, you have missed the mark.
Yeah.
The primary person speaking in that first appointment should be that survivor. Just hear them. Hear what they're here for, but also hear who they are, who they were as a little kid, the protective factors in their life, because that's what you're going to build upon when you want to help them get back out of a state of crisis. You've got to know who they are as people.
Now, you're totally right. And what's funny, I will say, is I had a person come. They wanted to be a part of the series, and eventually I told them that it doesn't work. This doesn't work for you, because they were very excited to tell their whole memoir and their whole story and all the crazy things that happened to them. And I said, the thing is that this series has nothing to do with that. We're only looking at your biomechanical data. We're actually not talking about any of the actual specifics, other than the specifics of what your heart rate variability is. And she was like, oh, I really want to tell my story. And I went, well, there's a lot of places to do that, but it's
there are other avenues for that.
There's other avenues for that, yeah. And so, yeah, it's really interesting. What you're talking about, Matt Bodette is a person he has schizophrenia, and he's a working artist in Chicago, and he's a professor here at a university. And he was talking about, he also does sit-down sessions with people, and he said that he will speak almost not at all at the first few sessions. And he said sometimes the clients, he's clearly having clients, that they realize that he hasn't spoken, and they're like, are you okay? And he goes, no, I'm just listening. And I said, isn't that hard to just, don't you have questions? He goes, yeah, I got to stop myself from asking them.
This is awesome, Matt. I'm trying to comprehend the depth of all this as we're going along here. It's really pretty special.
I'll do an example. There's a woman, Hannah. She's got multiple sclerosis. Now, the two things I had studied starting in '96 was dementia and multiple sclerosis. And it wasn't until a few years ago that a large study had come out that I really felt like dementia could be, I would never say reversed for anything. I would say that a cognitive increase could occur within those individuals, but it'd be really hard, because a lot of those people who have dementia, they're what they're going to eat or how mobile they are. There's a lot of factors that are going to prevent them from getting to that place. But is it possible? Yeah. And that was the biggest part, was that there was a possibility. But for multiple sclerosis, I always said to people would ask me like, hey, if this is this, could multiple sclerosis be like decreased? And I always said, in far as I know, and what literature says, MS and Parkinson's cannot be really healed in any way that I know of. And it wasn't until a year ago that a study came out showing two twins, and that one twin had MS and one didn't. And the main difference, everything was pretty much exactly the same between them, except for that one of them had two bacterial populations that were actually healthy bacteria, but they were in too high a population. And one of them, they were both in the Lactobacillus family, and these two bacteria are implicated within that. And also there's also Huncatella and then Akkermansia, which are two other ones. But so you get four in total. So there's a woman, Hannah, who has MS, and she got in contact with me, actually not about herself. She got in contact with me for her friend with dementia. And I was telling her like how hard it would be to decrease dementia symptoms. And she was like, oh yeah, I don't know if you could actually even do that. And then I said, wait. And then she said something, I have MS. And I said, wait. Hang on. This whole time you're asking about this, you're saying that you have multiple sclerosis? And she said, yeah. And I said, I have got this series. And I explained all of it to her. I said, if you're interested, I made a formula after this study came out, but nobody's ever been able to take it if you're interested. And the formula is just 7 different extracts in ethanol, specifically in ethanol carriers. But she was down, and her current protocol is so good. Like, clearly she's able to have such low symptoms because she exercises 5 days a week, which is not normal for somebody with MS, and she eats insanely healthy. There's a lot of things that she does, which is pretty incredible. So the point is that she started this, and I was thinking that she might have some decreases in symptoms, like she couldn't feel her legs, she can't walk very far. But she had symptom changes within a week or two. And I was like really shocked. We're actually having a second, after I do this interview with you guys, we're doing the next interview with Hannah, and she's going to talk about all of her changes that she's had, which have been mind-blowing to me. But again, she's only one person, right? So if it could happen with another, but it's still, even to have any positive changes, even if they're huge for her, but even if they were small, I would be amazed. So, but to go back into how this all relates is that, like, I have music that's in 7/8 time because of the 7 different ingredients within this formula, and because it's a neurodegenerative disorder, 7/8 time can feel like we're tripping. And so the music, and she's really upbeat, and so it's this really upbeat song because she's Spanish. There's like flamenco style piano in there, and she's Polish, and the bridge feels Eastern European. And so again, just like you're saying, like, it's combining art with a medium of presentation to inspire other people, to show them what's really possible.
Scientific musician? I'm trying to figure out. When I put all the things up there, I knew you did a lot of stuff. Matt, I'm blown away, buddy.
Yeah, I just read a lot. I don't.
I would say therapeutic
Music. Therapeutic musician?
Therapeutic music, yeah.
Scientist has to be up there somewhere too. It has to be on there somehow.
I love it.
I don't think I'm a scientist.
How many people think, gosh, I want my own theme song? These people really are getting their own theme song. I love it. It's so customized.
Yeah, and I'll say that they don't realize how crazy it's going to be. Well, first they don't. I will say that they don't think that there's going to be any changes, and then pretty quickly they have some type of modification, but either big or small, and then they're surprised. But then when they start, getting, because I could do photography and video, and so when they start to see all of the whole thing coming together, and you'll see it if you go onto the Matt Griffo and Health, you'll see these different, and as they keep getting released, because I'm about to release more series as they come out. Like Vince, for example, it was a year. He's over a year now in his process, but he went from not being able to have a job, being isolated, being in psychosis, panic attacks, crying every day. Now not only does he have a job, but he quit multiple other jobs to get better jobs, and then has a girlfriend, does great, is just normal dude problems now.
That's
And
awesome.
Yeah,
it's just cool to have the music be, he likes like electronic music, so I made it electronic for him, and it's great.
This is very inspiring, Matt.
Yeah, but people could see those recipes. I don't have the MS formula up yet because I want to wait I would like to wait until a few people, not just Hannah, try this. But eventually I'll have that up, and there's a bunch of other recipes and formulas, and they're all food. It's all plant-based, so it's just food.
Yeah, I there's not many times where I don't have words to say, and this is, I think, one of them. This is really neat, Matt. But buddy, we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us about all this. I feel like we need to have you back on for another podcast again and dig into this, and not even talk about the rest of the stuff, just dig into this further, because this is extremely intriguing, and there's so many pieces and parts of this puzzle that I got to sit back for a second, listen to this again, and like do my own thought process, because this is I'm a little overwhelmed in a great way.
Well, and thank you for calling, because you've inspired me to finish those edits on the podcast episodes I have not released yet.
No, it's pretty cool, Matt. Thanks for all you're doing, buddy, for your community and for people in general, and just being a sounding board for a lot of people that really need it, and doing so much extra and trying to make a difference. It's great.
Thanks. It was really, really lovely to chat with you guys today.
All right, buddy. Thank you for your time, and we'll be chatting here again soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Bye, all.
Thanks, Matt. Bye, buddy. Well, that went a direction I was never expecting it to go.
I need him to become a new regular guest.
Yeah. That was pretty neat.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's amazing.
I obviously knew he was a genius level person by the way he interacts. The interactions I had with him, you can always tell he's a brilliant man. But I never knew about truly the scientific side of Matt. I never knew about it. Which, I mean, that is science in its own way. That is science.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So really, really neat.
I love it. I loved listening to it because his story was so similar to what made me a science nerd and sent me down the wanting to research and read and learn everything there is about, disease, and that's how we met.
That's true.
My grandfather in 96 had Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's, and that man was my best friend, and I watched him deal with that and slip away, and that started my almost obsession with the mystery of our bodies and what our brains are capable of. So hearing him do something with it, that's beautiful. I love that.
So that was a real connection for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow is about the best I can come up with right now. Like I said, I need to listen to I'm going to go back and listen to this one again, and then try to redevelop it. And I feel like maybe next season we'll have Matt back on again and get deeper into that, because that was pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty neat. All right, guys.
So it's a scientific mental health musician with perfect cover photos.
Yes.
That
yes.
sums it up. Yes. I think that sums it up.
I think that's a good assessment.
Yeah. I think all the things kind of broke down a little bit more than I ever expected it to. Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to the EEARSS podcast, produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. If you'd like to learn more about EEARSS, you can go over to EEARSS.org or .com or Alligator Robb with 2Bs.com and dig into not just the podcast, but all the amazing things we're working on and doing, including this next weekend. Well, actually, when this airs, it'll be a couple days away. On May 23rd in Cocoa Village at the Cocoa Village Civic Center and Amphitheater, we'll be having the Ears of the Environment Eco Fest. This is a free event from 4 to 10 p.m. We have Molly Levette and Joe Lasher from Nashville coming down to headline it. We have 2 other musicians, 9 food trucks, 22 vendors. It's all free. Come enjoy it, soak it up. And if you're free that day, during the day, There's going to be a Comic-Con inside. Go enjoy the whole day in Cocoa Village. Soak it up. Learn more about the stuff we're working on. And we'll catch you all next week. Bye-bye.